All right, so we're going to create an enemy spawning system. We're actually going to use the camera for this. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these enemies from here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a camera 2D. It should be a sibling of the player. We don't want it to be a child of the player. Now, I'm going to add something to the player here called a remote transform 2D. And if I click on this and go inspector, we're going to assign camera 2D to that. Basically, it's going to control this node without it having to be a child of it. I can test that just by running the scene. And as long as the player stays in the middle of the scene, then we're all good. Okay, so with this camera here, we're going to call it camera. We'll just rename it to camera. And then I'm going to add in a node here. I'm going to call this enemy spawners, enemy spawner. And then I'm going to add in another node, just a node 2D. I'm going to call it spawners, spawn points. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to add a timer. We'll call it spawn timer. And then under spawn points, I'm going to add in a marker 2D. Now we could do this part with code. We could set up exactly outside where we want it to go. Instead, I'm going to do it very simply. And this hopefully will make sense. I'm going to put a bunch of these markers outside the bounds of the camera, and we're just going to randomly pick one to spawn the enemy at. Now you can put as many of these as you want. I'm just going to spawn a couple. They don't have to be exactly in a line. Select a bunch when I'm done and duplicate them, bring them over there. Duplicate them, bring them to the bottom. And then put a couple going up. And same on the other side. All right, so there we go. We've got a whole bunch of markers, and I can just hide those because they're all children of spawn points. So on the enemy spawner, I'm going to add in a script. I'll save the scene. Script. Script's going to be very simple. We're going to get a few references here. First one is going to be to the timer. Actually, let's just hold control and drag those in. Oops. Oh, just happened. Where did my timer go? You can hold control and drag them in like that. You'll get the references to them. Or you can just type it up exactly as it is there. We'll also need to get a reference to our world scene. So at onReady var and we'll say get node, I think, root world. And then get a reference to the camera. Camera equals parent, I think. No. Oh, yes, it is. It's just like that. That means like up one. So the camera there. And why is that not working? Expected end of statement after. Must be get tree. Get tree dot get node. I literally just did it in the last video. So why? Oh, I didn't give it a variable name. And it's not get tree, it's get node. So it's that. Okay, all right, so there we've got our references. And ready, we don't need the ready function. We don't need the process function. Instead, we are going to have the timer. The timer spawn some stuff. So let's go ahead and add in a signal for that when it times out. I'm going to sync it up with this, not the player. So make sure you put it on, link it to the enemy spawner. We're going to also have a function called spawn enemy. there for now. So down in this function, we're going to replace this and say when it times out, we're going to spawn enemy. And then in here, our enemy equals, we didn't actually get a reference to our enemy, so let's do that. Enemy $dot instantiate, and then bar spawn point equals spawn points dot pick random. Oh, now we want to change this. Okay, so I made a mistake. I have made a mistake here. What we need to do is we need to get children spawn points dot get children. There we go. Okay, and then spawn points is going to be dot pick random. So that's going to pick a random spawn point from the spawn points list. So these are all children of the spawn points. I'm going to pick a random one. Enemy dot global position equals spawn point dot global position. And then world dot add child enemy. The reason we're adding it to world and not just to like here is because as the camera moves, it would move the enemies with it. So we don't want to do that. Right. Now I'm going to go to this and we're going to turn it on so it's auto start. We'll just leave it as 1 second. And what we should see when we run is that every 1 second a new enemy spawns from a random location. There we go. Okay, in the next video, we'll make it so that it drops experience cubes.